welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and this is 10 commanders that I was wrong about. And I know everyone loves hearing about the stuff that I'm wrong about. Those videos always get lots of views, and we do make mistakes as content creators. When sets come out, we like to give our opinion about things, and then as time passes by, it's like, oh, well, maybe I wasn't quite right on my original take of this card or this commander, and commanders end up being a lot more popular than you thought they would, or a lot less popular. And I like to revisit it and sort of correct maybe the wrong opinions that I had. So for example, as an honorable mention, I'll talk about Virak Warped Sengir. 1 white and a black vampire 2/2 flying death touch lifelink. Whenever you activate an ability that isn't a mana ability, if life was paid to activate it, you may pay that much life again. If you do copy the ability, you may choose new targets for the copy. I thought, man, what a fantastic ability on a commander. There's so much you could do with it. This was number 2 when I did my top commanders from Dominaria just recently. And again, it's still pretty early, but even pretty quickly, I didn't really do the research as much as maybe I should have here. I thought there would be an absolute ton of stuff available to you to build with this commander. I mean, paying life, we're doing that all over the place, right? White and black is doing a lot of that. Actually isn't nearly as much as I thought. So even though I think this is a fantastic commander, and I think it will see play in the format for sure, I think it's going to be not quite as popular as I thought it would be, because there just isn't enough stuff available to actually build around it. I mean, there's enough, but there's not a ton. And a lot of Virak decks out there, I think, are going to look very similar, because there only is a fairly limited pool of stuff to choose from. Unfortunately, it is still a really cool commander though. Coming in at number 10 though is Lenore Autumn Sovereign. 2 green and a white human noble 04. Has Coven. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature you control. Then if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, draw a card. So this was, I think the very first commander spoiled from Midnight Hunt. I didn't love it. And originally I thought, it's okay, I guess. I thought the Coven ability I didn't love. You're doing the +1/+1 counter thing, which is okay, I guess. Then you get to draw a card. I always say drawing cards on commanders is great. I just didn't love this commander. I didn't think it would be that popular at all. There is over 1,200 decks on EDH Rec currently. That is a lot. Way more than I thought it would be. I did not think people would be going after this one. It's not incredibly difficult to get that 3 different powers thing, especially since your commander isn't 0 power. So getting something that's a 1 or a 2 is very easy. And obviously you can put that counter on a creature as well. So you do need minimum 3 creatures, of course, in order to get the card draw, right? That's the bare minimum. The 3 different powers isn't that difficult. This is just a way more popular commander than I thought it would be. Coming in at number 9, Geralf Visionary Stitcher. 2 and a blue human wizard 1/4. Zombies you control have flying, and you can pay a blue and tap, sacrifice another non-token creature, create an XX blue zombie creature token, where X is the sacrificed creature's toughness. And as people who watch my channel regularly will know, this is a commander that I really liked. I had it very high on my Crimson Vow list of commanders, and not very popular at all. It's got under 400 decks on EDH Rec currently. I think a lot of people look at this commander still and go, zombies you control have flying, so it's a mono blue zombie tribal commander. And that's just not the case at all. To me, this is a, first of all, toughness matters commander, which I think is really interesting. The zombie flying thing is just an added bonus to the zombies that you are already making, right? So I would put practically 0 zombie tribal in this deck if I were making it, and I have made it. I made it on my channel, obviously. You're also doing the token thing, which is really interesting. I had put Proteus Staff in the one that I made, because Proteus Staff is a neat fit in any token deck, because you can tuck your token on the bottom of your library and flip an actual creature off the top. There's just a lot of neat things you can do here, right? You're in a sacrifice theme as well. I thought this guy would be a lot more popular because he's so unique and interesting, and not really the case at all. Coming in at number 8, Vadrik Astral Archmage. 1 blue and a red human wizard 1/2. If it's neither day or night, it becomes day as Vadrik Astral Archmage enters the battlefield. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost X less to cast, where X is Vadrik's power. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, put a +1/+1 counter on Vadrik. Vadrik. So I just didn't think this guy was very interesting at all. First of all, I don't love the day-night mechanic. It is incredibly difficult to control it. That being said, this guy doesn't really care if it's day or night, right? He only cares when it changes. All you have to do is have your opponents or you constantly casting either 2 spells per turn or no spells per turn, and it will keep flipping back to day and night, and when it does, you get a counter on your Vadrik Astral Archmage. Now, that being said, I still don't think this is a great commander. It's got 2,400 decks on EDHREC, that's a lot, but it's a thing we've seen 1,000 times before. It's just doing it a little bit differently, right? This is just an Izzet Spellslinger commander, right? An Izzet instant and sorcery commander for which there are already a ton. Aren't we bored with this yet, guys? Like, I'm actually shocked how many there are. I mean, Niv Mizzet, of course, is the best instant and sorcery commander, and it is the most popular. We also got Veyran, Voice of Duality, which I think is better. And of course, those are the 2 most popular Izzet commanders. Mizzix of the Ismagus pretty much is doing the exact same thing as Vadrik. Very similar, just in a little bit of a different way. So again, for me, I'm not saying Vadrik is worse or better or whatever. I'm just saying we've seen this so much before in Izzet colors that I didn't think people would go after Vadrik because we've already done this to death in Izzet colors, right? So I thought people would be bored with it. You know, it's sort of like coming out with a new Boros or an equipment commander. It's like, okay, well, we've seen that 1,000 times, so nobody's going to be that interested in it. People are way more interested in this than I thought they would be, basically is what I'm getting at. Coming in at number 7, Denry Klin, Editor-in-Chief, 2 white and a blue, Cat Advisor 2/2. Denry Klin, Editor-in-Chief, enters the battlefield with your choice of a +1/+1 first strike or vigilance counter on it. Whenever a non-token creature you control enters the battlefield, if Denry has counters on it, the same number and kind of counters on that creature. I just thought this was a fantastic ability. This is one that I had, again, very high on my list. I know it's still early, right? New Capenna just came out at the start of the year, but still way less popular than I thought it would be. It only currently has 235 decks on EDHREC. That's practically nothing. I thought this guy was so interesting, and the most interesting thing about him, I mean, other than the fact that you can put all these counters on all your creatures and you can build your deck in a lot of different ways, you can put any kind of counter on Denry Klin. And I don't know, maybe that's something that people are missing here, right? It doesn't have to be the +1/+1 first strike or vigilance counter. I made the example of a divinity counter, right? If I can put a divinity counter on my Denry Klin with that which was taken, for example, I mean, this is a very janky way to build the deck, but I'm using this as an example because of all the open-ended ways you can build this deck. Now, when I cheat my Myojin into play, right? Because the Myojin say you got to cast them from your hand, but now I can cheat them into play, and when they enter the battlefield, that's a non-token creature I control entering the battlefield. My Denry Klin has a divinity counter on it, so my Myojin will get a divinity counter as well, right? So that's just an interesting way to build this deck. I just thought there's so many ways you can build around it. It doesn't have to be I'm putting those counters on all my creatures. It can be I'm putting any kind of counter on my Denry Klin, right? So I put an indestructible counter on my Denry Klin or something. Now all my creatures, when they enter the battlefield, get indestructible counters as well. And if I have 30 different kinds of counters on my Denry Klin, every single creature that enters the battlefield under my control is going to get all of them, right? This is the same number and kind of counters. I can't believe how unpopular this guy is. I think he's super interesting, and there's a lot of different ways you can go with him. Coming in at number 6, Svella Ice Shaper, 1 red and a green Troll Warrior 2/4. Pay 3 and tap, create a colorless snow artifact token named Icy Manalith with tap, add 1 mana of any color. So you're basically creating mana rocks with your commander. Pretty interesting, especially for a Gruul commander. And then you have 6 red and a green. That's a lot of mana. Tap, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may cast a spell from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. So I was very unimpressed with this guy when he first came out. I don't know if my spoiler video is still available. It's like one of the first videos I ever made, obviously, because Kaldheim came out right after I started my channel. You have 2 abilities that are tapping. They're both slow, especially that last ability, paying 8 mana. 8 mana is so much. I thought because of the slowness of this commander and the fact that you have to be tapping it all the time, it would really make it unattractive for people to go after. And again, in Gruul colors, I didn't think that this really fit well with what was going on. This has 1,383 decks on EDHREC currently. I'm shocked at that. I can't believe how popular this commander is. I will say though, I ended up doing a deck tech for this guy on my channel, and you can hear it in my voice when I'm doing the deck tech, how I'm really not impressed with this guy at all. However, I did did come up with some interesting ideas of how to use them. So I went ahead and did the deck tech anyway, even though I wasn't in love with them as a commander. That is one of my lowest downvoted videos on my channel, okay? A lot of people were downvoting that video, and I think the reason why is because of the way I was talking about the commander, about how I didn't like it, I didn't think it was very good, and a lot of people were tuning in to watch that video because they did like the commander, and they wanted to build that deck, and I was talking crap about a commander that they actually liked. So I don't know, it's kind of funny, I think. It's not a bad commander. I am pretty surprised still with how popular it is, though, for sure. Coming in at number 5, Ao the Dawn Sky, 3 white dragon spirit, 5/4 flying and vigilance. When Ao the Dawn Sky dies, choose one. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put any number of non-land permanent cards with total mana value 4 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order, or you can put 2+1/+1 counters on each permanent you control that's a creature or vehicle. So this currently has 318 decks on EDH Rec. I was way more excited about this guy when I first talked about him, and I had him, I would say, around the middle in my Neon Dynasty ranking. I thought he was going to be the most popular of the Dragon series. And he is. He is currently the most popular. However, 300 decks is almost nothing. Again, that's a commander that you're almost probably never, ever going to see actually in a commander game, unless there's a guy in your actual pod who's got one, right? Now, this is a situation where I actually was wrong, and really wrong, as in I read the card wrong, okay? And I've done this a couple of times. Again, these mistakes happen. We're only human. Sometimes, you are rushing a lot with all this content coming out. You're trying to make spoiler videos and rankings and all this stuff. I actually sort of read the card wrong, deciphered it wrong. So I really was wrong about this card because, again, when I read the card, I deciphered it incorrectly. Put any number of non-land permanent cards with total mana value 4 or less from among them onto the battlefield. When I originally read this card and was evaluating it, I didn't realize it was total mana value 4. I thought you could look at the top 7 cards of your library, take anything that is mana value 4 and put it onto the battlefield, which of course is fantastic. That's not the case, right? You can get one thing that costs 4, or you can get 4 things that cost 1, right? It's total mana value 4, which is just okay. It's not great. So again, for me, this is a commander that I truly was wrong about because I actually read the card wrong. Coming in at number 4, Kadira, Caller of the Small, 1 green and a white Orc Ranger 3/3 with trample. When Kadira, Caller of the Small deals combat damage to a player, for each token you control, create a 1/1 white rabbit creature token. So I was pretty high on this guy. I thought it was going to be really popular. I still think that this is maybe the best token commander in the entire format. I don't know. It's pretty fantastic. This cares about all tokens, right? And that is what makes a really interesting commander for me, is I can just make a bunch of treasure tokens, right? I have a bunch of treasure tokens in play, which are always good to have, or clue tokens or whatever. I attack with my commander, I get in for damage, and I create that many rabbit tokens as well. And again, rabbits is kind of neat. We've never seen that before. It really is a powerful effect. If I have like 5 treasure tokens lying around, I'm now going to get 5 1/1 tokens as well. That seems really good. I heard people talking about how, oh, well, you got to get in for damage. That makes it difficult. I don't think so. I mean, your commander already has trample. It doesn't care about how much damage you deal. All it cares about is dealing damage to your opponent. It doesn't matter if it deals a bunch of damage. All you have to do is get in for 1 damage, and this ability triggers, and you get to create all those rabbit tokens. Giving your commander flying or some other kind of evasion is not that difficult, or just making your commander bigger, also not that difficult. Giving your commander like +X+X, where X is the number of creatures you control, cards like that. I do that in my Shanna deck. Works really good there, where you're doing a go wide strategy, but also you're sort of doing a go tall strategy as well. I thought this would be way more popular. I thought this would be one of the most popular ones from the set. It's under 1,000 decks. It's still pretty good, right? It's got over 900. That's not bad. That's sort of a middle of the pack commander. But for me, I just thought it would be way more popular. And I was wrong about that. Coming in at number 3, Miram Sentinel Worm, 3 green, blue, and a red Dragon Spirit 6/6 flying ward 2. Whenever another non-token dragon enters a battlefield under your control, create a token that's a copy of it, except the token isn't legendary if the dragon is legendary. And again, it's pretty early here. We just had Baldur's Gate come out, and the top 3 commanders on this list are all commanders that came out this year, very recently. And so it seems weird to go back and look at them them already, but when a commander is as popular as this one is, it's very easy to find out how wrong you really are, right? I don't know if there's ever been a commander that I have been more wrong about than this one. I cannot believe how popular this commander is. When I looked at this, I thought, okay, well, it costs 6, that's a lot. You can't really do anything until your commander comes out. So I cast my 6 mana commander, then probably likely I gotta wait a whole nother turn before I cast my first non-token dragon, and then I get a copy of it. That's okay. Dragons are expensive, so it's not like I'm gonna be doing this a whole bunch in a turn. I didn't think this was gonna be very popular. It wasn't even on my top commanders from the set list. It currently has over 6,700 decks on EDHREC. It is the 24th most popular commander in the entire format. Wow. I've never been so wrong about a commander. I can't believe how popular this is. It is now the most popular teamer commander in the entire format. That's right. Animar Soul of Elements has finally been dethroned. Animar Soul of Elements, since it came out, was the most popular teamer commander for the longest time. That is no longer the case. I mean, come on. Is anyone else surprised by the fact that Miirym Sentinel Wyrm is a more popular commander than Animar Soul of Elements? I'm shocked by that. I can't believe it. I mean, it is more popular than Gishath, Sun's Avatar, Yarok the Desecrated, Niv Mizzet Perun. It is more popular than some really powerful popular commanders. This one is one of the biggest surprises of the year for me, and I certainly was wrong about it. But maybe not as wrong as I was about Benny Brax Zoologist. 3 and a white, Elf Druid 3/2, has Convoke, and at the beginning of each end step, if you created a token this turn, draw a card. So when this guy first got spoiled back in New Capenna, I made a video specifically about him because I thought, wow, this ability is amazing. First of all, it's drawing cards. It's drawing cards in mono white, which people always like to see. And also, it's a very open-ended token theme. You can do so much here with the tokens. And I predicted very incorrectly, I predicted that Benny Brax would soon be the most popular mono white commander in the entire format. Not even close, not by a mile. It only has 361 decks on EDHREC. I can't believe that. It's shocking. In fact, I was so shocked by how unpopular this guy was that I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll go make a Benny Brax deck. And I did. Just put together my paper Benny Brax deck last week. I like it a lot. I think it's tons of fun. Lots of great value. When you have a commander that can draw you cards, it makes your deck building experience so much easier because you don't have to think that hard about where's my card draw coming from. It's coming from your commander, right? And Benny Brax has the ability to draw 4 cards in a turn cycle, which that's how I built my deck. I'm drawing lots of cards off of this guy. I really like that deck, so I'm not sad that this is unpopular. I'm just really, really surprised, and man, was I ever wrong. And it's funny about how wrong I was because in the exact same set in New Capenna was another mono white commander that completely flew under the radar for me that would end up becoming the most popular mono white commander in the entire format. So incredibly ironic there, and that's number 1 on my list. Giada, Font of Hope. 1 and a white, Angel 2/2, Flying Vigilance. Each other angel you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each angel you already control, and taps to add a white, and you can only spend it to cast an angel spell. That's right, this is the most popular mono white commander in the entire format already. Again, this set just came out a little while ago, so it's very easy for me to evaluate this because already it's the most popular mono white commander in the entire format. Over 4,000 decks on EDHREC. That's really good for a mono white commander. And again, I didn't talk about this one at all in my top commanders from the set. I thought it was pretty boring. I mean, mono white angels, first of all. And I mean, yeah, there is a lot of support for mono white angels, but it seems weird to me that someone would go after a mono white angel tribal deck when you can play like a white black or a white red and get a whole bunch more available to you. That's one of the reasons I didn't think this commander was going to be very popular. The other reason is the tribal aspect here just isn't very good. I mean, your commander's a mana dork. That's okay, I guess. You're just putting counters on your angels, so you're just making them bigger. That's not very interesting. I like to see other stuff going on with tribal commanders, not just I make my creatures bigger. That's kind of boring. This just seems like a very boring commander to me. I'm shocked that people went after this one. And again, I don't think anybody would have guessed that Giada, Font of Hope would be the most popular mono white commander in the entire format. That's shocking to me. I can't believe it. And again, very ironic that Benny Brax, which came out in the same set, I mean, Benny Brax was New Capenna commander, but essentially the same time they both came out, 2 mono white commanders. I thought for sure Benny Brax would be the most popular mono white commander in the entire format eventually. And in the same set was Giada, which I didn't talk about at all. Like, not for a millisecond did I talk about Giada on my channel until now, and it is now the most popular mono white commander in the entire format. So, man, was I ever wrong about that, right? I was way off on this one. We do make mistakes, right? Here, it's hard to gauge. I mean, I'm looking at these two commanders. One's drawing me cards like crazy, and one's just putting counters on my creatures. Come on, if you look at these two commanders, which one would you have guessed would be the more popular one? And it's not even close. Giada has more than 10 times the decks on EDH Rec that Benny Brax does. That's surprising to me. What am I missing here? I guess people really like Angel Tribal. Nevertheless, 10 commanders that I was way wrong about. Really, really wrong about some of them. In fact, we're all just guessing here, right? Me and all these other guys that are doing this, what are they going to be the best commanders, the best commander cards from sets, all that other stuff. It's just an initial evaluation, and you're just guessing based on what that card is doing, whether or not it's going to be popular or it's going to be powerful. And sometimes you're just way off, and I was way off on a lot of these guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below of these commanders or commanders that you were just way off about. Can't believe how popular they are or how unpopular they are. But that is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.